Hello and welcome to Native Flow English. I am very happy you are here today. If you want to speak English naturally, confidently, and fluently, this channel is for you. Before we begin, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell me where you are watching from and why you want to improve your English. Your comments help the channel grow and help me create better lessons for you. And you. As you listen to these sentences, remember that you can adapt them to your own life. You can change the job, the routine, and the details. The structure remains useful. Now, let us begin. My name is Sarah. I want to start by telling you a little about myself, because learning how to talk about yourself is one of the most important skills in English. Every conversation starts somewhere, and very often, it starts with you. When someone asks me to introduce myself, I usually smile and speak calmly. I say, "My name is Sarah. I am originally from the United States, but I enjoy connecting with people from all over the world. I believe language brings people closer, and English has helped me build friendships, share ideas, and grow as a person. I am the kind of person who values honesty, curiosity, and learning. I enjoy listening to others and understanding different perspectives. When I talk about myself, I try to be clear and simple. I do not try to sound perfect. I try to sound real. In my daily life, I have a routine that keeps me balanced. I usually wake up early in the morning because I like quiet time before the day becomes busy. In the morning, I drink a cup of coffee and take a few minutes to plan my day. This helps me feel focused and calm. I work as an English teacher, and I truly love my job. Teaching English is not just about grammar or vocabulary for me. It is about helping people feel confident. I enjoy seeing my students grow and express themselves more freely. When someone tells me they finally spoke English without fear, it makes my day. When people ask me about my work, I often say, I teach English, and I help learners speak more naturally in real-life situations. I focus on communication, not perfection. This simple explanation helps others understand what I do and why I care about it. Outside of work, I have many interests that shape who I am. I enjoy reading books, especially books about personal growth and culture. Reading helps me relax and learn at the same time. I also enjoy walking, listening to music, and spending time in nature. These small habits help me stay grounded. Music plays an important role in my life. I listen to music when I feel happy, when I feel tired, and even when I need motivation. Music helps me express emotions that words sometimes cannot. When someone asks me about my favorite music, I usually say, I enjoy calm and meaningful songs, especially ones with strong lyrics. Family is also very important to me. I come from a supportive family, and I am grateful for that. My family taught me the value of hard work and kindness. When I talk about my family, I often say, my family is a big part of who I am today. They support me and encourage me to follow my goals. I am the type of person who believes in continuous improvement. I do not believe you need to be perfect to succeed. I believe you need to be consistent. Every day, I try to learn something new, even if it is small. This mindset has helped me grow both personally and professionally. When people ask me about my personality, I usually describe myself as calm, friendly, and focused. I enjoy meaningful conversations more than small talk, but I can adapt to different situations. I believe communication is about connection, not performance. One thing I have learned over the years is that confidence in speaking English does not come from knowing every word. It comes from using the words you already know. That is why this video is designed to help you practice simple, useful sentences that you can use immediately. As I share my story, I want you to imagine that you are speaking too. Imagine replacing my details with your own. When I say, "My name is Sarah," you can say your own name. When I talk about my job, think about how you would describe your work or studies. This is how real learning happens. I remember a time when I felt nervous speaking a new language. I was afraid of making mistakes, but over time, I realized that mistakes are part of learning. Now, when I speak, I focus on clarity and connection. I want the listener to understand me, not judge me. That is why I speak at a natural pace. I pause when needed. I choose simple words. This makes my message stronger, not weaker. Confidence grows when you feel understood. If you are listening right now, I want you to know something important. You do not need advanced English to talk about yourself well. You need practice, patience, and the right examples. That is exactly what you will get here. As we continue, I will keep sharing my life, my thoughts, and my experiences in clear, natural English. Each sentence you hear can become a sentence you use. Each idea can help you express yourself better. Stay with me. Keep listening, and most importantly, practice speaking out loud. In the next part, I will continue sharing more about my background, my experiences, and how I describe my life journey in English, step by step, in a way you can follow and use every day. As I continue talking about myself, I usually move from the present to the past, because our experiences shape who we are today. When someone wants to know me better, I often share a little about my background and the journey that brought me here. I grew up in a place that taught me the importance of independence. From a young age, I learned how to take responsibility for my actions and my choices. I was curious about the world, and I always wanted to understand how people think, feel, and communicate. That curiosity slowly turned into a passion for language. When I was younger, I did not imagine that English would become such a central part of my life. At first, it was simply a subject in school. Over time, it became a tool for expression and connection. I realized that language gives you a voice. It allows you to share your ideas and your identity with others. During my school years, I enjoyed subjects that allowed me to think and reflect. I liked reading, writing, and discussing ideas with classmates. I was not always the most confident speaker, but I was a careful listener. Listening helped me learn how people express themselves naturally. As I grew older, I started to understand that confidence is built step by step. I practiced speaking whenever I had the chance. I joined conversations, even when I felt unsure. Each experience taught me something valuable. I learned that people care more about your message than your mistakes. When I talk about my education, I usually keep it simple. I say, I studied language and communication, and I focused on helping people express themselves clearly. This sentence is easy to understand and works well in many situations, such as job interviews or casual conversations. My professional journey did not happen overnight. I worked hard, made mistakes, and learned from them. I had moments of doubt, but I never gave up. I believed that effort and consistency would lead me forward. Looking back, I am proud of how far I have come. In my career, I have met people from many different countries and cultures. Each interaction taught me something new. I learned that everyone has a story, and language helps us share those stories. This is why I enjoy meaningful conversations and listening to others. When someone asks me what motivates me, I usually say, I am motivated by growth and connection. I enjoy seeing progress, both in myself and in others. Helping someone gain confidence gives my work purpose and meaning. In my daily routine, balance is very important to me. I try to manage my time wisely. I work with focus, but I also make time to rest. I believe rest is not laziness. It is part of being productive and healthy. I often describe myself as someone who values simplicity. I like clear plans, honest communication, and realistic goals. I do not chase perfection. I aim for progress. This mindset helps me stay calm and focused, even in busy situations. When I talk about my strengths, I mention patience and empathy. I try to understand how others feel, especially when they are learning something new. Learning a language can be challenging, and I respect that process. I remember how it felt to struggle, and that memory helps me support others better. Of course, I also have weaknesses, like everyone else. Sometimes I overthink things. Sometimes I take on too much at once. But I am learning to manage my energy and set healthy boundaries. Being honest about yourself builds trust and confidence. In conversations, I like to be open and approachable. I believe good communication starts with listening. When people feel heard, they feel comfortable speaking. That comfort leads to better connections and deeper understanding. When I meet someone new, I often share small personal details to create a friendly atmosphere. I might say, I enjoy quiet mornings and thoughtful conversations. These simple sentences help others relate to me and often encourage them to share about themselves. I also believe that goals are an important part of life. I set both short-term and long-term goals. In the short term, I focus on daily improvement. In the long term, I focus on impact and contribution. This balance keeps me motivated and grounded. If someone asks me where I see myself in the future, I usually answer honestly. I say, I want to continue learning, teaching, and connecting with people around the world. This sentence reflects both my personal values and my professional goals. As I speak, I want you to notice something. None of these sentences are complicated. They are clear, natural, and flexible. You can adapt them to your own life. You can change the details, but keep the structure. This is how you build fluency. I often remind myself that language is not about showing off. It is about sharing who you are. When you speak from that place, your words feel natural and confident. As this story continues, I will keep sharing more aspects of my life, including my relationships, my habits, and how I handle challenges. Each part will help you learn how to talk about yourself with clarity and ease, just like in a real conversation. As conversations go deeper, I usually begin talking about the people around me because relationships play a big role in shaping who we are. When someone asks me about my family or my close connections, I speak with warmth and appreciation. I often say, I am very close to my family, and they mean a lot to me. We support each other, even when life gets busy. This simple sentence helps others understand my values without going into too much detail. It sounds natural and works in many situations. I grew up in a family where communication was important. We talked openly about our thoughts and feelings. That environment taught me how to express myself honestly and respectfully. It also helped me become a good listener. When I talk about my parents, I usually mention the lessons they taught me. I say, my parents taught me the importance of responsibility and kindness. They encouraged me to follow my interests and believe in myself. These ideas are easy to share and help others see where my mindset comes from. If someone asks whether I have siblings, I answer clearly. I say, I have siblings, and we share a strong bond. We may have different personalities, but we respect and support each other. This kind of sentence shows balance and maturity. Family gatherings are something I enjoy. They give me a sense of belonging and comfort. When I describe these moments, I say, I enjoy spending time with my family, especially during simple gatherings and shared meals. These are moments that help me relax and recharge. Friendships are also an important part of my life. I value quality over quantity. I prefer a few close friends rather than many casual ones. When I explain this, I often say, I prefer deep and meaningful friendships. I enjoy conversations that help us understand each other better. My friends come from different backgrounds, and I enjoy that diversity. It gives me new perspectives and helps me grow. I usually describe this by saying, my friends inspire me because they see the world in different ways. In social situations, I am friendly but thoughtful. I take time to observe before I speak. This helps me respond with care and intention. When someone asks about my personality in social settings, I say, I am calm and approachable, and I enjoy meaningful conversations. I believe trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. I try to be reliable and honest with the people in my life. If I say I will do something, I make an effort to follow through. This builds confidence and respect. As part of my daily life, I also spend time alone. I value quiet moments because they help me reflect and reset. When I talk about this, I say, I enjoy spending time alone to think and recharge. This is important for my balance. My hobbies often reflect my personality. I enjoy activities that help me relax and stay focused. Reading is one of my favorite hobbies because it allows me to learn and imagine at the same time. I often say, I enjoy reading books that help me grow and think deeply. Another hobby I enjoy is walking. It helps me clear my mind and stay active. When I talk about it, I say, I enjoy going for walks, especially when I need to organize my thoughts. This sentence is simple and easy to use in everyday conversations. I also enjoy learning new things, even outside of my profession. I believe learning keeps life interesting. When someone asks me about my interests, I often say, I enjoy learning new skills and exploring new ideas. As I describe my lifestyle, I keep my language natural and honest. I do not exaggerate. I simply share what feels true to me. This makes my speech sound more confident and relaxed. Sometimes people ask me how I handle stress. I answer honestly. I say, when I feel stressed, I slow down and focus on what I can control. I take deep breaths and give myself time. This kind of answer feels human and relatable. I also believe that challenges help us grow. I do not avoid difficulties. I try to learn from them. When I talk about challenges, I say, I see challenges as opportunities to learn and improve. This sentence shows a positive mindset. As you listen to my story, I want you to imagine your own answers. Think about your family, your friends, and your daily habits. You can use these sentence patterns to talk about your own life in English. The goal is not to memorize everything. The goal is to feel comfortable speaking about yourself. When you feel comfortable, your confidence grows naturally. As this conversation continues, I will move into talking about work, daily responsibilities, and how I describe my professional life in English. These are topics you will use often in real conversations, and I will guide you through them in a clear and practical way. I usually say, I work as an English teacher, and I help people improve their communication skills. This sentence is simple, professional, and easy to understand. It works well in both formal and casual situations. If someone wants more details, I continue by saying, I focus on helping learners speak naturally and confidently in everyday conversations. I enjoy practical learning more than theory. This helps others understand my teaching style and my values. In my daily work, I spend a lot of time preparing lessons, listening to students, and guiding them step by step. I often say, my work involves teaching, mentoring, and supporting learners as they build confidence. This sentence sounds natural and explains my role clearly. I usually start my workday with a plan. Planning helps me stay organized and reduce stress. When I describe this habit, I say, I like to plan my day so I can stay focused and productive. This is a useful sentence you can use for your own routine. During the day, I communicate with many people. Clear communication is very important to me. I try to speak slowly, listen carefully, and respond thoughtfully. When I talk about this, I say, I value clear and respectful communication at work. Sometimes my work is challenging, but I see challenges as part of growth. I often explain this by saying, my job can be challenging at times, but it is also very rewarding. This sentence shows balance and honesty. One of the best parts of my job is seeing progress. When someone improves, I feel proud and motivated. I usually say, seeing progress in others motivates me to keep doing my best. This sentence expresses purpose and passion. When people ask me about my work environment, I describe it as supportive and focused. I say, I work in an environment that values learning and personal development. This works well in professional conversations. Of course, work is not the only part of my life. I believe in maintaining a healthy balance between work and personal time. When I talk about this, I say, I try to balance my work with rest and personal activities. This sentence is very useful in modern conversations. After work, I usually take time to relax. I might read, go for a walk, or listen to music. I describe this by saying, after work, I like to unwind and give myself time to relax. This sentence feels natural and relatable. Evenings are a time for reflection. I often think about what I learned during the day. When I talk about this habit, I say, I reflect on my day and think about how I can improve tomorrow. This shows a growth mindset. On weekends, my routine is more flexible. I enjoy slowing down and spending time on things I enjoy. I usually say, on weekends, I like to slow down and enjoy simple activities. This sentence is easy to use and understand. Sometimes I spend time with friends, and sometimes I prefer quiet time alone. Both are important to me. I say, I enjoy social time, but I also value time alone to recharge. This sentence shows self-awareness. I also like setting goals for myself. Goals help me stay motivated and focused. When I describe this, I say, I set realistic goals and work toward them step by step. This sentence is clear and practical. When I talk about success, I do not define it only by results. I define it by effort and consistency. I often say, for me, success means staying consistent and continuing to learn. This sentence reflects a healthy perspective. I believe confidence comes from knowing yourself. The more clearly you can describe your life, your work, and your values, the more confident you feel when speaking. That is why talking about yourself is such an important skill. As I keep sharing my story, I naturally begin to talk about my goals and the direction I want my life to take. Talking about goals helps others understand what motivates me and what I value most. When someone asks me about my goals, I usually start with something simple. I say, I want to continue growing as a person and improving my skills. This sentence is clear and works in many situations. I also talk about professional goals. I often say, I want to help more people feel confident speaking English in their daily lives. This shows purpose and passion without sounding complicated. I believe goals should be realistic and flexible. Life changes, and we change with it. When I explain this, I say, I set goals, but I stay open to new opportunities. This sentence sounds natural and thoughtful. In the short term, I focus on daily habits. I usually say, I focus on small daily actions that lead to long-term results. This sentence is useful for talking about routines and discipline. In the long term, I focus on impact. I often say, I want my work to have a positive impact on others. This expresses a deeper motivation and is easy to understand. Dreams are also an important part of my life. I believe dreaming gives us direction and energy. When someone asks me about my dreams, I say, I dream of a life where I can continue learning and sharing knowledge. This sentence feels sincere and personal. I also believe that fear is a natural part of growth. I do not let fear stop me, but I respect it. When I talk about fear, I say, I feel fear sometimes, but I do not let it control my decisions. This sentence shows emotional awareness. Challenges are something I face like everyone else. I do not avoid them, but I approach them calmly. I usually say, when I face challenges, I try to stay calm and focused. This sentence is simple and effective. One challenge I have faced is self-doubt. At times, I questioned whether I was good enough. Over time, I learned to trust myself more. When I talk about this, I say, I learned to believe in myself through experience and practice. Failure is another topic that comes up in deep conversations. I do not see failure as the end. I see it as feedback. I often say, I see failure as a lesson, not a defeat. This sentence shows resilience. I also believe patience is essential. Growth takes time, and rushing often leads to frustration. When I talk about patience, I say, I remind myself that progress takes time. This sentence is very useful for personal conversations. When I think about the future, I feel hopeful. I know there will be difficulties, but I trust myself to handle them. I usually say, I feel optimistic about the future because I trust my ability to adapt. This sentence sounds confident and calm. I also value stability and peace. I do not chase constant excitement. I prefer a balanced life. When I describe this, I say, I value peace, balance, and steady progress. This sentence reflects maturity. Sometimes people ask me what success means to me personally. I answer honestly. I say, success means living in alignment with my values. This sentence is simple but powerful. I believe that learning never ends. Even when you reach a goal, there is always more to learn. When I talk about this belief, I say, I believe lifelong learning is essential for personal growth. This sentence fits well in many discussions. As I speak about my goals and dreams, I stay grounded in the present. I know that what I do today matters. I often say, I focus on doing my best each day. This sentence is easy to remember and use. I also try to be kind to myself. I do not expect perfection. When I talk about self-compassion, I say, I allow myself to learn and improve without pressure. This sentence sounds gentle and realistic. As you listen, notice how these sentences flow naturally. They are not complex, but they carry meaning. You can use them to talk about your own goals, dreams, and challenges. This story continues to grow, just like a real conversation. In the next part, I will talk more about emotions, feelings, opinions, and how I express them clearly and confidently in English, while keeping the story connected and natural. As the conversation becomes more personal, I often begin to talk about my emotions, my opinions, and how I experience everyday life. Being able to express feelings in English is an important part of sounding natural and confident. When someone asks me how I feel about my life right now, I usually answer honestly. I say, I feel content with where I am, and I am excited about where I am going. This sentence shows balance between satisfaction and ambition. I believe emotions are a form of information. They tell us what matters to us. When I talk about emotions, I say, I try to understand my emotions instead of ignoring them. This sentence sounds thoughtful and mature. Happiness, for me, comes from simple things. I often say, I feel happiest when my life feels balanced and meaningful. This sentence is easy to understand and very relatable. Of course, I also experience stress and frustration. I do not hide that. When I talk about stress, I say, I feel stress sometimes, especially when I take on too many responsibilities. This sentence is honest and realistic. When stress appears, I have ways to manage it. I usually say, I manage stress by slowing down and focusing on what matters most. This sentence is useful in many real-life conversations. I also believe it is important to express opinions clearly and respectfully. When I share my opinion, I try to stay calm and open. I often say, in my opinion, clear communication makes relationships stronger. This sentence models a polite way to express a viewpoint. If I disagree with someone, I do so respectfully. I might say, I see your point, but I have a different perspective. This sentence is very useful for professional and social discussions. I enjoy conversations where people can share different opinions without conflict. I usually say, I enjoy open conversations where everyone feels respected. This sentence reflects emotional intelligence. When I talk about things I enjoy, I express it naturally. I say, I really enjoy spending time on activities that help me relax and grow. This sentence can easily be adapted to personal interests. When I talk about things I dislike, I stay polite. I often say, I am not a big fan of unnecessary pressure or negativity. This sentence communicates a preference without sounding harsh. I also talk about values when conversations become deeper. Values guide my decisions and actions. When I talk about values, I say, I value honesty, consistency, and personal growth. This sentence is simple and strong. Sometimes people ask me how I make decisions. I answer honestly. I say, I try to make decisions based on logic and intuition. This sentence sounds natural and thoughtful. I also believe reflection is important. I take time to think about my actions and choices. When I talk about reflection, I say, I reflect on my experiences to learn and improve. This sentence shows self-awareness. When something goes well, I allow myself to feel proud. I often say, I feel proud of the progress I have made. This sentence is positive and confident. When something does not go as planned, I stay patient. I remind myself that setbacks are part of the process. This sentence is calming and realistic. I also talk about confidence in a simple way. I do not describe it as loud or aggressive. I say, confidence means trusting yourself and staying calm. This sentence reframes confidence in a healthy way. In conversations, I try to stay present. I listen carefully and respond thoughtfully. When I describe this habit, I say, I try to stay present and engaged during conversations. This sentence fits well in social and professional contexts. As I share these thoughts and feelings, notice how natural the language is. These are sentences you can use to talk about your own emotions and opinions in English. As I continue describing my life, I naturally begin to talk about my habits and lifestyle choices, because these details help others understand how I live on a daily basis. Habits may seem small, but they reveal a lot about a person. I usually start by talking about my mornings. I say, I like to start my day slowly and with intention. This sentence sounds calm and sets the tone for how I approach life. In the morning, I try not to rush. I often say, I give myself time in the morning to prepare mentally for the day. This shows self-awareness and balance. I believe consistency is more important than intensity. When I talk about habits, I say, I focus on building habits I can maintain over time. This sentence is useful for conversations about self-improvement. One habit I value is organization. I like to keep my environment clean and simple. When I describe this, I say, I feel more focused when my space is organized. This sentence is clear and practical. Another habit I have is setting priorities. I do not try to do everything at once. I often say, I prioritize tasks that truly matter. This sentence reflects maturity and clarity. During the day, I take short breaks to reset my mind. I believe breaks help productivity. When I talk about this, I say, I take short breaks to stay focused and avoid burnout. This sentence works well in work-related conversations. I also pay attention to my physical health. I do not follow extreme routines. I prefer balance. I usually say, I try to stay active and take care of my health in simple ways. This sentence feels realistic and approachable. Sleep is very important to me. I believe rest supports both mental and physical health. When I talk about sleep, I say, I make sure to get enough rest so I can function well. This sentence is very common and useful. In the evening, I like to slow down again. I often say, I use the evening to relax and reflect on the day. This sentence connects well with daily routine topics. I also limit distractions. I try not to spend too much time on things that drain my energy. When I describe this habit, I say, I try to limit distractions and focus on what adds value to my life. This sentence shows intention and control. I believe habits shape our future. Small actions repeated over time create big changes. When I talk about this idea, I say, I believe small daily habits make a big difference over time. This sentence is easy to remember and powerful. My lifestyle is not about perfection. It is about sustainability. I often say, I aim for a lifestyle that feels sustainable and balanced. This sentence reflects a healthy mindset. When people ask me how I stay motivated, I answer honestly. I say, I stay motivated by reminding myself why I started. This sentence is simple and inspiring. I also accept that some days are harder than others. I do not judge myself harshly. When I talk about this, I say, I allow myself to have difficult days without giving up. This sentence shows self-compassion. I enjoy learning from my routines. I observe what works and what does not. When I describe this, I say, I adjust my habits based on what I learn about myself. This sentence shows adaptability. As I speak about my habits, everything remains natural and connected. These sentences flow because they reflect real life, not memorized language. As you listen, think about your own habits and lifestyle. You can replace my details with yours and use the same structures. When someone asks me how I would describe myself, I usually take a moment to think. Then I say, I see myself as someone who is thoughtful, patient, and always willing to learn. This sentence feels honest and calm. I believe identity is not fixed. It grows and changes over time. When I talk about this idea, I say, I believe we are always becoming better versions of ourselves. This sentence reflects growth and openness. I do not define myself by one role or one title. I am more than my job. I often say, I am not defined only by my work, but by my values and actions. This sentence is powerful but still simple. I also believe that self-acceptance is important. I know my strengths, and I accept my weaknesses. When I talk about this, I say, I accept myself while continuing to grow. This sentence shows confidence without arrogance. In life, I try to stay true to myself. I do not pretend to be someone I am not. I usually say, I try to live in a way that feels authentic to me. This sentence sounds natural and mature. I care about how I treat others. Kindness and respect matter to me. When I talk about this, I say, I try to treat people with kindness and respect. This sentence is simple and universal. I also care about personal integrity. I want my actions to match my words. I often say, I value integrity and honesty in my daily life. This sentence fits well in deeper conversations. When I think about my past, I feel grateful for the lessons I learned. Even difficult experiences taught me something valuable. I usually say, my past experiences helped shape who I am today. This sentence is very common and useful. When I think about the present, I feel grounded. I try not to rush through life. I often say, I try to stay present and appreciate where I am now. This sentence reflects mindfulness. When I think about the future, I feel hopeful rather than anxious. I trust the process of life. I usually say, I trust that things will unfold as they should. This sentence sounds calm and confident. I also believe confidence comes from clarity. When you know who you are, you speak more naturally. I often say, knowing myself helps me speak with confidence. This sentence connects identity with communication. As I describe myself, I notice that the language stays simple. There are no complex structures, but the meaning is clear. This is how effective communication works. I want you to notice that talking about yourself in English does not require perfect grammar or advanced vocabulary. It requires honesty and practice. When I talk about this idea, I say, speaking confidently starts with being comfortable expressing who you are. Throughout this story, everything has been connected. Just like a real introduction that slowly becomes deeper, this is how conversations work in real life. As we continue forward, the story will keep expanding with more sentences about experiences, opinions, memories, and reflections, all connected smoothly as one continuous self-introduction. When I think about my early adult life, I remember a period of exploration and uncertainty. I was learning who I was and what I wanted. I often say, in my early adult years, I spent a lot of time discovering myself. This sentence feels honest and reflective. During that time, I tried different paths. Some worked, and some did not. I usually describe this by saying, I explored different opportunities before finding what truly suited me. This sentence is useful for career and life conversations. I also learned that change can be uncomfortable. At first, I resisted it. Over time, I learned to accept it. When I talk about this lesson, I say, I learned that growth often requires stepping outside my comfort zone. This sentence shows maturity and insight. One experience that shaped me deeply was learning to trust my own voice. I spent years comparing myself to others. Eventually, I realized that comparison only slowed me down. I often say, I learned to focus on my own progress instead of comparing myself to others. This sentence is very powerful and practical. I also faced moments of failure. At the time, they felt heavy and discouraging. Looking back, they taught me resilience. When I talk about failure, I say, some of my biggest lessons came from moments that did not go as planned. This sentence reframes failure positively. There was a period in my life when I felt unsure about my direction. I questioned my abilities and my decisions. When I describe that time, I say, I went through a phase of self-doubt and uncertainty. This sentence is clear and relatable. What helped me move forward was patience. I stopped rushing myself. I gave myself permission to learn. I usually say, I gave myself time to grow without pressure. This sentence sounds calm and supportive. I also learned the importance of asking for help. For a long time, I tried to do everything alone. Eventually, I realized that support makes growth easier. When I talk about this, I say, I learned that asking for help is a sign of strength. This sentence works well in deep conversations. Another lesson I learned was the value of consistency. Motivation comes and goes, but consistency builds results. I often say, I learned that small, consistent efforts lead to real change. This sentence connects well with personal development topics. I also had experiences that strengthened my confidence. Teaching others and seeing them succeed helped me believe in myself more. When I talk about this, I say, helping others succeed helped me build confidence in myself. This sentence shows mutual growth. Travel also played a role in shaping my perspective. Experiencing new places and cultures helped me become more open-minded. I usually say, traveling helped me see the world from different perspectives. This sentence is simple and widely useful. Even short trips taught me something new. I learned to adapt, communicate, and stay calm in unfamiliar situations. When I describe this, I say, travel taught me how to adapt and communicate in new environments. This sentence fits well in many conversations. There were moments when I felt proud of myself, not because everything was perfect, but because I kept going. I often say, I felt proud of myself for not giving up. This sentence is emotional but simple. I also learned to let go of unrealistic expectations. I stopped trying to please everyone. When I talk about this, I say, I learned to let go of the need for approval. This sentence shows emotional growth. Looking back now, I see how each experience connected to the next. Nothing was wasted. When I reflect on my journey, I say, every experience played a role in shaping who I am today. This sentence brings everything together. As I share these experiences, notice how the language stays clear and natural. These are the kinds of sentences you can use to talk about your own past in English. One memory I often return to is a time when I realized the importance of patience. I was working hard, but results were slow. At first, I felt frustrated. Later, I understood that progress was happening, just not in a visible way. When I talk about this, I say, I learned that progress does not always show immediately. Another important moment was when I received honest feedback that helped me grow. It was not easy to hear, but it was necessary. I often say, honest feedback helped me see my blind spots and improve. This sentence shows openness and maturity. There was also a turning point when I decided to take responsibility for my own development. I stopped waiting for perfect conditions. When I describe this decision, I say, I decided to take ownership of my growth and learning. This sentence is strong and clear. I remember a moment when I realized how powerful clear communication can be. A simple conversation changed a misunderstanding into mutual respect. When I talk about this, I say, clear communication helped turn a difficult situation into a positive one. This sentence is very practical. Another meaningful experience was learning to set boundaries. For a long time, I said yes to everything. Over time, I learned to protect my time and energy. I usually say, I learned to set healthy boundaries to protect my well-being. This sentence fits well in modern conversations. I also remember moments of quiet confidence. When I spoke up, even though my voice felt unsure, each time I did that, my confidence grew. When I describe this, I say, speaking up helped me build confidence over time. This sentence connects action with growth. There were times when I had to make difficult choices. I knew not everyone would agree with me. Still, I trusted myself. When I talk about these moments, I say, I learned to trust my decisions even when they were difficult. This sentence shows independence. Some memories are connected to failure. At the time, they felt heavy. Now, they feel valuable. I often say, looking back, I am grateful for the lessons failure taught me. This sentence reframes past struggles. I also remember moments of connection when I felt truly understood. These moments reminded me why communication matters. When I talk about this, I say, feeling understood reminded me of the power of language. This sentence ties emotion to communication. Another turning point was learning to slow down. I stopped rushing through life. I began to appreciate small moments. When I describe this change, I say, slowing down helped me appreciate life more deeply. This sentence sounds calm and reflective. I also learned the importance of self-reflection. Taking time to think helped me make better choices. When I talk about reflection, I say, self-reflection helped me gain clarity and direction. This sentence is useful and simple. As I think about these memories, I notice a pattern. Growth often comes quietly. It does not always come with big changes. When I talk about this idea, I say, growth often happens in small, quiet moments. This sentence feels thoughtful and true. These experiences shaped my values and my mindset. They helped me become more patient, more aware, and more confident. When I summarize this, I say, my experiences shaped my values and how I approach life. This sentence connects the past to the present. As you listen to these memories, think about moments in your own life that taught you something important. You can use these sentence structures to talk about your own experiences in English. As I bring my story closer to the present moment, I begin talking about my current life situation, because this is usually where real conversations naturally arrive. Right now, I am in a phase of life where clarity matters more than speed. I often say, at this stage of my life, I value clarity and balance more than rushing forward. My daily responsibilities feel meaningful to me. I do not feel overwhelmed by them, because I understand why I do what I do. When I talk about this, I say, my responsibilities feel purposeful, not heavy. I focus on a few important priorities instead of trying to do everything. This helps me stay calm and focused. I usually say, I focus on what truly matters and let go of unnecessary pressure. At this point in my life, I understand myself better than before. I know my strengths, and I respect my limits. When I describe this, I say, I know myself better now, and that gives me confidence. I feel more comfortable saying no when something does not align with my values. This was not easy in the past, but it feels natural now. I often say, I am more comfortable setting boundaries than I used to be. My current lifestyle reflects who I am becoming. It is simple, intentional, and balanced. When I talk about this, I say, my lifestyle reflects my values and priorities. I also feel grateful for where I am right now. Even though I still have goals, I appreciate the present moment. I usually say, I feel grateful for where I am in my life today. I no longer measure my life by comparison. I measure it by growth and alignment. When I describe this shift, I say, I measure my progress by growth, not comparison. At this stage, I trust myself more. I trust my decisions, my pace, and my direction. I often say, I trust myself to move forward at the right pace. I also feel more at peace with uncertainty. I know that not everything needs to be planned. When I talk about this, I say, I am more comfortable with uncertainty than I was before. My priorities are clear now. I focus on meaningful work, healthy relationships, and personal growth. I usually say, my priorities are meaningful work, connection, and growth. I feel grounded in my daily life. I am not constantly chasing the next thing. When I describe this feeling, I say, I feel grounded and present in my daily life. I also understand that life comes in seasons. Some seasons are for building, and some are for resting. I often say, I respect the different seasons of life. Right now, I am in a season of steady progress. I am not rushing, but I am moving forward. When I talk about this, I say, I am moving forward steadily and intentionally. I feel more confident expressing myself than ever before. Speaking feels natural, not forced. I usually say, I feel comfortable expressing who I am. As I finish this part of my story, everything feels connected. My past, my present, and my direction all make sense together.